That evening, the electric Mercedes whispered to a stop at the edge of the circular driveway, far earlier than anyone expected. David Thompson, the man the world called a tech miracle, had just canceled a last-minute meeting. 3 exhausting weeks in Japan, sealing the biggest acquisition of his company's history, and all he wanted now was home. Not the marble floors, not the ocean view balcony, but her. The woman who had saved him when he was 9. Ruth Williams. She's gonna love the surprise. He stepped out quietly, keys tucked into his pocket, a small smile warmed by nostalgia. At 41, he had built an $8 billion empire. Yet the person whose opinion still mattered most was a 67-year-old retired nurse who once worked double shifts to buy him secondhand programming books. He walked toward the side entrance, already thinking about making her favorite tea, Earl Grey with honey. But as his hand reached the door, he froze. There were voices. Tense, sharp, cutting. Isabella, his wife. I told you not to use the front entrance when I have guests. How many times do I need to repeat myself? Ruth's voice entered the air like a trembling leaf. I'm sorry, Mrs. Isabella. I just thought you don't get to think. Isabella snapped, her tone icy enough to crack glass. You're the help, Ruth, not some queen wandering around my home. David's stomach tightened. Help? Maid? She was family, and Isabella knew that. Ruth's reply came small but dignified. My son, David, invited me to live here as family. Isabella laughed. Cruel, theatrical, the kind of laugh people use when they know they can wound. Family? You? Please. You were a state-paid caretaker in Chicago, a glorified nanny. Don't pretend you were anything more. Something inside David cracked. 32 years. 32 years Ruth had never said a word about money the state gave her. To him, she had always been the woman who chose him when no one else wanted him. He stepped forward slightly, still hidden. His pulse hammered. Ruth's hand trembled around a cup of cold tea, her shoulders small beneath a cheap, stiff. His breath hitched. She was wearing a cleaning uniform. A uniform Isabella had clearly forced on her. Ruth, the same woman who once worked 16 hours a day just to pay for her first coding competition, now looked like a maid in the mansion her sacrifices indirectly built. David felt something dark and ancient rising inside him, a storm from the little boy who had once fought bullies in the Chicago schoolyard. Isabella wasn't finished. And stop shedding your hair everywhere. Use the basement bathroom from now on. Ruth blinked. The basement? But that bathroom doesn't have heating. Well then, she shrugged, learn to use cold water. You're tolerated here, Ruth, not welcomed. Something inside Ruth wilted. I should have stayed in Chicago. This isn't my place. Isabella struck the counter with her palm. Finally, a moment of clarity. That was the moment David quietly stepped back into the garden, because if he walked into the room right then, he might have done something he regretted. Instead, a memory washed over him. Ruth, at 35, exhausted from triple shifts, saying, Baby, one day you'll be so big, but never forget where you came from. Now, at 67, the woman who built him was being treated like trash in the home he'd worked his whole life to provide. David pulled out his phone, opened the mansion's security app. Because if Isabella dared speak like that in front of Ruth, what did she do when he was away for weeks? And the next hours answered that question brutally. David locked himself in his office for 3 hours, watching security footage. And with every minute, his anger grew heavier, colder, sharper. Isabella wasn't just cruel. She was calculated. Footage showed her forcing Ruth to eat cold leftovers alone in the basement while she ate gourmet meals upstairs. Another file showed Isabella secretly shutting off the heater so Ruth would shiver through the night. But the worst was the video from 2 weeks ago. Ruth had set up a dinner, candles, cake, flowers, to celebrate 32 years since she adopted David. Isabella came home, saw the setup, and sneered. How pathetic, pretending to be the mother of a billionaire. Then she dumped the cake in the trash and made Ruth clean it before lying to David later. Oh, honey, she loved the surprise. She cried. Ruth did cry, but not from joy. She ate a cold sandwich in the basement while Isabella posted fake family dinner photos online. That night, David realized something horrifying.
David didn't sleep that night. He didn't even lie down. He sat alone in the dark, the glow of security footage reflecting in his eyes that had lost every trace of softness. Every clip revealed another layer of cruelty, calculated humiliation, and a chilling pattern Isabella had carried out behind his back. One video crushed him the most. Isabella had created a private WhatsApp group, Malibu Elite Wives. A tight, toxic circle of rich women drunk on privilege. Screenshots showed messages like, David's old maid is getting confused again. I had to remind her where she belongs. Just send her back to the ghetto. David felt something inside him twist. Anger sharpened into something focused, deliberate. But the message that froze his blood came from Isabella herself. Don't worry, ladies. Once I gather enough evidence of dementia, I'll convince David she needs to be put away permanently. Permanently. She wanted to remove the only mother he ever had. Forever.
For 3 days, David played the role of the calm, distracted husband. But behind that calm, behind every nod, behind every I see, he was building a trap. Quiet, flawless, impossible to escape. Each morning, Isabella performed her fake concern routine over breakfast. "Honey, Ruth keeps forgetting things," she whispered dramatically. "Yesterday she tried calling someone at 4 a.m., completely confused." Ruth stood behind her, helpless, quiet, shrunken, her hands trembling as she poured coffee. David said nothing. Not yet. He simply listened, while quietly recording every word. Because some lies deserved to be preserved, so the world could hear them later. That afternoon, Rivera sent him the preliminary results of Isabella's device extraction. And the truth was uglier than anything David had imagined. The Malibu Elite Wives Group wasn't just mocking Ruth. They were coaching each other. How to fake dementia symptoms. How to have old relatives declared unfit. How to erase them quietly. One wife bragged about shipping her mother-in-law to a facility in the middle of nowhere. Another laughed about hiding a grandmother's medication to make her seem confused. David felt his jaw clench until it hurt. But he didn't lose control, because this wasn't rage anymore. It was strategy. He printed everything, stored it in a secure digital vault, and waited. Friday arrived, the night of the charity gala. Isabella descended the stairs in a shimmering designer gown, radiant and confident. Her victory was so close she could taste it. "David," she smiled sweetly, touching her hair, "the Sunny Acres van is coming Monday for your mother. I've already signed everything. It'll all be handled." David answered with a gentle smile, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Interesting," he murmured, "because I just got a call from Sunny Acres. They wanted to confirm that I authorized you to forge my signature." Isabella froze. Her lipstick red smile trembled. I didn't forge anything." David raised his phone and swiped. Documents appeared. Her doctored notes, her forged authorization, her messages bragging about getting rid of Ruth. Lying was one thing, Isabella. But trying to erase the woman who raised me, that was your mistake. Ruth stepped into the room. Not in a maid uniform. Not trembling. Not small. He had thrown away everything humiliating Isabella made her wear. And today, she stood tall, dignified, restored. Isabella stared at her in disbelief. Ruth's voice held both pain and quiet power. "You made me sleep in the basement. You threw away my letters. You made me eat on the floor." Isabella's hands shook. Ruth, I didn't." David connected his phone to the giant TV. The living room filled with screenshots, videos, and voice memos from the Malibu Elite Wives Group. Every racist comment, every cruel message, every brag, every lie. David read aloud. These people never learned boundaries. Sent her back where she came from. I'll have her committed soon. Isabella stumbled backward, horror spreading across her face. You can't show that. It's private." "It's evidence," David replied coldly, "and tonight it's going public." His phone buzzed. Rivera, TMZ, LA Times. Dozens of outlets confirming they had received the full exposé. David looked her dead in the eyes. "At the gala tonight, this entire room of your elite friends is going to watch themselves humiliate and abuse elderly family members, including you." Her voice cracked with sheer panic. "My reputation, my life, you've ruined everything." "No," David replied calmly. "You ruined everything. I just hit play." Her phone rang nonstop. First, Jennifer Walsh. "Isabella, what the hell have you done?" Then Patricia Sterling. "You've dragged us all into this mess." Then her own lawyer. Mrs. Thompson, I must withdraw from representing you. Isabella collapsed, sobbing. David, please, we can fix this. I'll change, I swear. Let Ruth stay. We'll go to therapy, anything. Ruth stepped forward. For the first time, she wasn't the wounded one. She was the survivor. You don't have to change for me. Just leave. David nodded. There's a car outside. Your bags are already inside. And Isabella, if you ever try to retaliate, remember, I now know exactly who you are. Isabella left that mansion for the last time a woman stripped of her power, reputation, and carefully built facade. The world she controlled through cruelty had finally collapsed. 1 year later, Ruth, glowing with peace, taught coding to underprivileged children at the community center David built in her honor. At 68, she looked freer than she ever had. Technology, she told the kids warmly, can be a tool for justice. Don't let anyone tell you where you belong. David watched her with pride. Isabella, now broke, abandoned by her friends, and living alone in a small apartment, sent him one message. I'm sorry. I was a different person. Can we start again? David deleted it without a second thought. Some bridges, once burned by cruelty, were never meant to be rebuilt. Ruth touched his arm gently. You know why we won, baby? Why? He whispered. Because love is louder than hate, and protecting family is the only war worth fighting.